Hello, hello. Welcome to the All In podcast with Nate Peo. Of course, I am your host, Nate Peo. Today's guest is Dustin Miller, PolyInnovator, host of the Polymath PolyCast, and Omnichannel content creator. Welcome to the show, Dustin. How are you?
Good to you. Thank you, Nate, for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So I gotta ask you, what is a PolyInnovator? What's a Polymath PolyCast? Obviously, Omnichannel content creator. Sounds like you are up to a lot of things.
Yes. So it's very divergent, if you will, with a lot of explanation there. So I'll start off with just what a polymath is. And a polymath is essentially like a jack of all trades, someone who does many different skills and has many different interests, but at a high level. So think of it like a specialist who has multiple specialties.
hmm Is that something you came up with, or is that like a term that's been around, or is it your own creation?
So polymath has been around for a very long time. In fact, like over 1,000 years at this point. You can think Leonardo da Vinci or Benjamin Franklin. Those are prime examples of polymaths throughout history. And my brand name, PolyInnovator, is based off the idea of a polymath of innovation. So that is
hmm
one that I coined right there.
Where did you come up with that? Was that like, an aha moment in your life, or is this something that you've just kind of gravitated towards?
It's interesting that you say that because PolyInnovator was something that was kind of an aha moment. I was needing to change my username to something that was a little bit more easy to understand in a basic sense. I mean, obviously, it's still kind of complicated in a roundabout way, but it used to be PolyInnovator, which was basically based off of my old brand, the United Living Construct, which is a whole nother rabbit hole. But I named it after that particular brand, and I thought no one's going to really understand that. No one's going to really want to know more about it. PolyInnovator was more geared towards where I wanted to be: innovation, futurist, that kind of thing.
It does make sense of like having, innovation. It comes from a lot of different areas in life. It comes from different places of inspiration, and there's innovation of different scales. You can innovate the way you live your life. Huge things like everybody moving to Zoom calls is innovation, but there's also innovation in maybe just the way you operate in a daily task, too. So innovation can happen in a lot of ways. Now, you said that kind of came to you in an aha moment, which usually leads to my first question for my guests, which is
Mm-hmm.
their thoughts on luck. Do you believe in luck? Do you believe people are lucky? What's your thoughts on that?
I've spent a lot of time listening to audiobooks and famous people talk about luck or strategy and grit and these various different attributes someone might have for success. And when it comes down to luck, I do think that it's some ethereal source, so to speak. Some people can be lucky, some people cannot be. But I do think you could change or manage your own luck if you apply the right strategies, if you learn a lot, if you read a lot. I think that inherently makes you a little bit more lucky because either if the subconscious is working better for you, or if you're just naturally more inclined towards new opportunities and ideas because of the things you've done in the past to prepare yourself, I think you're naturally going to become more lucky.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's like the more education you know, the more places you put yourself in to utilize that knowledge, and then the more at bats you get in life, the more likely you're going to get hits, and the
Yeah.
more likely you're going to get better hits when you swing at the right pitches. And the only way you know the right pitches is through experience. So a lot of this kind of circulates like, hey, people are lucky, or because they create their own luck. They do a lot of behind the scenes work. They'll do a lot of things you don't so anybody that's lucky, they might say, hey, I got lucky, I had a lot of breaks, but they also put in a ton of hard work behind the scenes that most people didn't see,
Right.
and they just appear on the outside to be lucky. And maybe even the people that say, oh, they got lucky, are people that don't want to do that hard work. They don't want to put in the effort. So it's an excuse to project what they're afraid of doing for themselves onto somebody else who's not lucky. It's an excuse mindset.
I did lose you a little bit there towards the end.
Oh, sorry. You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. What part did you lose me on?
Just the last few words.
I don't even really recall. I think I was just saying, people that call out others for being lucky, um, they're maybe projecting. They're their shortcomings on other people and just saying, hey, because I don't believe in myself, I'll just say somebody else is lucky and I'm unlucky, instead of taking efforts to improve their luck, which is really
Yeah.
being in the right places at the right time and trying to find the right places to be in so that you're more likely to have some successes. So
Yeah, definitely. If I may
very,
add too, I do think that this whole quarantine has made me a little bit lucky too, because I started doing guests on my own show, and now you're doing a lot of guests as well. I think this time of year, even though it's a terrible situation, it's almost like we're lucky because we get these new opportunities.
yeah, you everybody's dealt cards in life. You respond to the things that come your way. Everything you do is a reaction to it, and so you could say, hey, I'm going to let this manhandle me, beat me down, or I can rise above it, conquer it, take a pivot, learn a way to adapt. The last downturn, there's a gentleman, you familiar with James Altucher?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so he was posting a TikTok and he's like, here are the businesses that were founded in 2008 during the last Great Recession. And it was like Instagram, it was like Airbnb, and I'm probably getting these wrong, but they were all like these rock star, superstar startup companies that came out of it. So when you go, hey, we're in another downward economy, that doesn't mean that that's not where you can create value, where you can build big things, where you can be innovative. Whether or not you want to become the next big billion-dollar company, or you just want to, be a little bit better at the way you handle your day-to-day activities, like, here's a chance for you to say, hey, I can read. I never had a chance to read as much as I did now, or I can, spend more time with the family. There's a lot of things we always say, hey, look, if only I had the time. You got the time now, man.
Yeah.
Make best use of it. So very cool. So tell me a little bit about the types of projects that you're working on as a PolyInnovator. You must have your fingers in a lot of topics, a lot of subjects.
A lot of cookie jars, if you will. So kind of going back to that whole idea about the show, is that I started doing blogging way back in 2011, but around 2017 is when I really started building PolyInnovator, and I started trying to create more and more content. And that was my driving goal, is to create videos and podcasts. But the problem was I was too scared to be on video, so I started doing podcasts on my own. And that evolved into what I'm doing today, where I'm creating podcasts, videos, and blog posts in this omnichannel format, meaning an everywhere presence. So if you see a platform like LinkedIn or TikTok, or even some weird obscure blockchain platform, if you look for PolyInnovator, you're bound to find me, at least in some
Mm-hmm.
capacity. And so I really wanted to be everywhere at once. That's what I kind of felt like a polymath should be, is that if you're going to be a polymath, someone who's this generalist, this jack of all trades, knows many areas, that you should be everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest project right now is that the PolyCast, this podcast show that I'm doing, where I'm interviewing people like yourself, who, by the way, our episode was fantastic. But I'm trying to get these people's ideas on polymathy, either if they don't know it or they do know it, and try to see what their opinions are and how we can shape the term and the ideology behind it for a modern era.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting take. And I wanted to go back to your point about when you started your journey, or maybe it wasn't the start, but it was a point along your journey where you were essentially, you said you're afraid to be on video, and that I resonate with, because I've felt compelled a lot of times in my life to do something bigger than myself. And every time I start going down this path of discovering it, I would abandon it because it would get uncomfortable. It would be like, oh, I need to post a vulnerable side of myself on social media, or, oh, I need to make a video and explain something that I don't feel like I'm an expert enough to talk about it. So I'm like, what will people think? Will they judge me for it? So I just better not do that. And then I'd put it aside. A few years later, that itch would come back. I'd get going again.
Yeah.
And again, get to that same point. Ooh, this doesn't feel good. I'm not the right person to share this message. That's for other people to do. Put it away. And finally, well, it was this year 2020, but it's been within the last 365 calendar days. Somebody else was doing something similar, and I called them up and I said, hey, why are you doing this? Like you're going down this path of a version of you that's different than what everybody knows of you. And they're like, I felt compelled to do it. I'm going to do it. And we'll see where it goes. And I was like, you know what? I've just got to get out of my own way and just put myself out there and just go, it is what it is. People either like it or they'll hate it. And by doing that, I think you also, like, in your journey as PolyInnovator, you're like, or PolyCast, you're like, hey, I'm showing jack of all trades of all these things that I'm doing, but you're also showing a journey of learning. And so somebody that wants to innovate always wants to continue to learn, and continue to learn new things means being a beginner at something from the beginning, from the get-go. And you're never good at anything at the beginning. Like, you have to overcome the beginner struggle and keep pushing through. So I think there's a lot to be said about being afraid and owning the self-doubt, but pushing yourself anyways. I mean, how is that working for you inside your head? What stories are you telling yourself? What beliefs are made up, not untrue statements that you're telling yourself that you have to, challenge yourself to overcome every day?
So yeah, I think it really comes down to grit. First and foremost, grit. And that concept itself is more of like a muscle than it is a skill per se. So you really have to just kind of work at it and have that willpower built up over time. And I started out working at my local, I don't want to say Y because it's not a Y, but it's my equivalent for my city. And it's like a gym. I have fitness related jobs. So I'm a swim instructor, personal trainer, that kind of thing. And I spent a lot of time pursuing that self-development through physical attributes, right? And so I tried to keep working out, keep pushing myself past my breaking point. And I think that history has led me to be able to gain that grit through some other easier avenues, such as working out, and then be able to apply it towards something that's a bit harder, like content creation and building a brand, building a business. And it really helps resonate with people, because sometimes when you're feeling like you don't want to continue, kind of like what we were talking about before the interview today, where sometimes you just don't want to do it. You don't want to be on camera. You don't want to hear your voice on a podcast. You don't want to put yourself out there on social media. When those situations occur, sometimes it just takes a small little step forward in that direction. So maybe not exposing yourself as much as you might have initially thought you needed to. Just doing a little bit of tasting the cookie jar in that regard, and then kind of doing a little bit more.
It's funny you said that about, like, I don't like the way my voice sounds or the way I look on camera. Like, I've been in that same boat too. And I think I had an epiphany recently, and it's not even that big of an epiphany. It was just like, that's what you look like. That's what you sound like. That's what everybody else sees. And people still talk to you. People still look at you. You're not like, repulsive people, or you got the, it's different seeing yourself, and it's different listening to yourself. So just, sure, I'll avoid it. I'm not going to go back and watch all my videos and listen to my voice and cringe when I hear it. But at the same time, it's like, it's what everybody else hears when I talk. So why is that any different if it's being recorded or if it's just in person? So it's about challenging limiting beliefs inside your head. You talked about why. You have to have a bigger why of what's more important. Is it more important to say, I don't like my voice, so I'm not going to live the best capable life I'm possible? Or is it more important to get up every day and try to make an impact into people's lives? So I did want to ask you, like, where are you, if you were going to say, hey, 10 years out, what is PolyInnovator Dustin Miller doing? What is he known for? What is, like, your big why for a long-term vision?
So when you say long-term, do you mean 10 years or the whole life?
Well, let's say 10 years, or your legacy at you're a young kid, and you probably got a lot of years left. So I want to say your legacy, like, it's there's a lot of runway before you get to the end. So I think your life's definitely going to change and go directions you never thought possible. So it's maybe a little soon to discuss legacy, but, like, what's 10 years out for you?
So kind of going back to 10 years out, or 10 years ago, actually. Let's go back to 10 years ago. When I was a teenager, people would ask me, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? And as a kid, I would say businessman. Even when I was 9, I knew that. As I got into teenagehood, I would say CEO. And in my late teenage years, which is what really drove me into building PolyInnovator, is I would say I want to be CEO of an international company driven to innovate technology and ideology.
Mm-hmm.
With PolyInnovator, I want to create that dream either through content creation or working in smart city development. So I think in 10 years, I'll be working with smart cities and kind of going into that field.
Yeah, smart cities is, I think, a huge idea that people are just starting to grasp. There's like, the technology that we heard about the Jetsons, growing up or whatever, like it's out there now. Like it's out there today. It's maybe not at scale, but it's very possible. Like you said, smart cities would be, how can we, navigate the grid of energy consumption and make it more efficient and not have waste or water usage. But people are already implementing these ideas, and they're starting to communicate, and the data will start flowing, and people will start gathering this information and be able to really respond and, make life a lot more efficient. They'll be able to, you know, the smart cars, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty crazy where that will go, and it's happening today. One of my favorite books, Steve Case, the founder of AOL, the old America Online, he wrote a book called The Third Wave, which really talks about this smart cities, Internet of Things technology. And really, like, the first wave of the internet was the infrastructure, getting people on the internet. Step two was social media. People, it became part of their lives. They were able to use it to communicate, and it was widely adopted. And then stage three is what you're calling smart cities, the Internet of Things, which is now the internet can connect all this technology, all this data together, and it can really expand the way people live their lives. But it's going to take a lot of investment. That like Web 2.0 was me and you go create an idea in the garage. A team of 6 to 8 could build it and make $1 billion company. This innovation is going to take a lot of resources from big companies with big dollars, because you just can't go out and create the like, you're creating, I don't know, machines, equipment, resources that use the data to do all this stuff, versus you're creating the digital platform. So now you need like a lot of investment to build the what needs to run on the data. So I think that's a really cool book, and it's definitely a space. If somebody was saying, hey, what should I get into? I want to be in tech. Like I would start going down that path and learn as much as I can about that, versus trying to create the next app or the next, web-based program that's going to share pictures and photos and funny stories. I mean, it's still fun and dandy, and there'll be more of that we don't know. But I think for the most part, the engineering is going to go in that direction. So what does it take to be all in on that idea for you?
Well, still kind of going into the idea of where I was going to be. One of the biggest things that I'm working on is the modular degree, a self-education framework for people to adopt and almost kind of like create an app, like you were saying, actually, to share different ideas and how people can learn. And I think that's going to be a very interesting way for smart cities to be impacted by education. I think by going all in right now with content creation and trying to really focus all my effort on meeting people like you, making connections, building up my reputation for being a thought leader, and really kind of diving into just creating, and also documenting my journey through the modular degree that I'm pursuing to help people down the line understand what I was trying to do. Maybe they can copy it and find their own path.
So how would you describe, what does all in mean to you then, around like an idea or an outcome?
Yeah, perfect. So being all in, I think, is a matter of like what gets you out of bed in the morning. What are you thinking about? What are you really creating the operating system of your life? What are you centering that around? Like, what's the main program going on in your brain, and what is the actions you're taking to execute that program? That's what I think all in is about.
Yeah, it is a lot about just getting up every day, working hard, and moving towards it. So now you're talking about omnichannel content creator, the Polymath PolyCast. Who is that person that's on the other end of the internet listening to your podcast? they're consuming your content, they're looking to find you. What is that person like in a lot of detail? How would you describe him or her?
I would think that that person is someone who's curious. You don't have to be a polymath or even know what a polymath is or even want to know what a polymath is to enjoy and use the information in the podcast that I have. And so when you listen to the PolyCast, I try to help people get a bigger picture of a certain topic. Like with you, it was the super connector, someone who's being able to connect with many people and be the person that you can go to when you need help. With someone else, I was talking about the well-being of your life and the balance between certain areas that you are focusing on, like health and mind and body. So I think that the person that's listening to the podcast or even just reading the content on my blog would be the kind of person who wants to know more, who wants to pursue self-development and education, someone who wants to grow, attain that growth mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that idea of being curious, and you go, hey, uh, I'm I don't know, like for me, I felt like every time I've wanted to start something, I would be like, hey, I'm going to go down this path. But I also had this interest in something else, and I'm interested in another thing. And how does, like, I'll give you an example. How does startup business, networking, and fitness have anything to do with anything, And you go, well, they don't, but they're unique to me and they're unique to my ideas. And who knows, maybe down the road, like there'll be a way to take all these three like interrelated concepts and bring them together in one thing. So you're right, like you don't have to go narrow down your focus of learning. You want to continually learn, you want to continually get exposed to new ideas, challenge your assumptions, and see where that knowledge goes, and then find ways to connect the things that you have of interest to it. So I would definitely encourage anybody that's super curious to check out your stuff for sure.
And just to interject a little bit there, you're talking about how these three separate areas don't necessarily have anything to do with each other, but I think that some of the ideas behind polymathy is trying to find the bridges between those areas. So you can find that why building up your physique and taking care of your health affects your business and entrepreneurship. You can find that bridge. It'll give you more of a why to actually go accomplish those two things. And for me, I think being a polymath also is about just not doing everything at once right now, but over time. So those three areas may not be related now, but 10 years down the line, they might have a brilliant connection. So that really drives you forward and you found some sort of innovation between the trifecta of those three areas. So polymathy is more about evolving over your lifespan.
And I think the way you described it at the beginning of the show when you said Benjamin Franklin, that's where it like really kind of, hey, that makes a ton of sense. Like that's a guy that, impacted the world in a lot of positive ways, and what he was involved in was so varied, I don't know his whole story in like detail, just going to give you like what the tall tales were, the key and the kite, and writing the Falmer's Almanac, and negotiating with the French for supporting the American Revolutionary War. And you go like, those are also random stuff, but yet they're so. And then he did autopsies, and he wrote, like, it's just crazy, like all the cool things he's done. And so like as a poly innovator, you can chase your hobbies or your passions, and when they've come to fruition, you move on to the next. You don't have to be defined by the last 5 years of your life. Like I've explored that as far as I've wanted to take it. I don't see a future in it for me. Maybe you've even set the groundwork for somebody else to pick up the baton and run with it. So awesome stuff. So where can this curious person find you? I guess everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Omnipotent, omnipresent.
Omnipresent, omnichannel, whatever omni you want to use. People can find me through my website, first and foremost, PolyInnovator.space. I've worked really hard at making the links and getting to all the different platforms as easy as possible, either in the header or the footer areas of the website, where you can go to any platform that you choose, whatever platform you like. If you're an Instagram fanatic, you can find my Instagram that way. And then there's also the PolyCast, which is just pod.co/PolyCast. Yeah.
There you go. So I encourage you to go follow those links. They'll all be in the show notes, so we can easily find Dustin. And if you're curious, reach out to him. You want to know a little bit more about a polymath. You want to just chat with him, chit chat about what he's got going in his life. I'd encourage you to do that. Reach out, connect. That's really what this show is about. It's about making connections and helping other people out too. So awesome. I appreciate you coming on the show and chatting for a bit.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.